All right, today we're going to teach you the basics of how to make a hemmed square of fabric. You will see that we did a pillowcase dress out of a pillowcase, and from the top sheet we made a dress with sleeves. You can check out our dress videos to have directions on how to make those. But our dresses didn't take up the entire top sheet. So what we're going to do is we have the rest of this sheet left. And you'll see that 3 sides are hemmed. So the top of the sheet, the sides, but this bottom is where we cut off to make the dress with sleeves. What we're going to do now is measure up the bottom. We're going to iron it, and then we're going to stitch it. So we're going to work on the very basics of learning how to sew, which are measuring, ironing, and a simple straight stitch. And if you use a piece of fabric that already has the hems, you only have to do one side. If you wanted to do this to the other sides, you just do the same thing on all 4 sides of the fabric. So we're going to go to the ironing board, we're going to measure, and then we're going to stitch. So when you're getting ready to do your fabric, folding it up with the iron, make sure that you have a nice clean edge. This was the edge that was on here before, but as you can see, it was very jagged and not very even at all. So I cut off the top edge of, or the bottom edge, depending on how you look at it, of the fabric. Now I have this handy tool, and I'm going to iron it up by 1/2 inch, which is 1.3 centimeters. And then I'm going to fold that in so that I get a narrow hem of 1/4 inch. I'll show you what it looks like. So 1.3 centimeters or 1/2 inch. Use lots of steam. And the steam sets the line. See how the line is in there? And then I'm going to fold the top into that line and tuck it and fold it. And iron with steam. If you don't have the fancy tool, you can use the same thing with your seam gauge. You can do 1/2 inch and then 1/4 inch, or if you wanted, you could iron up to 1/4 inch. And then fold up to 1/2 inch. And then you'll see it's the same measurements. 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch is the same as 1/2 inch. And if it's your first time sewing, you'll want to use pins to hold it down. So once you've ironed it, you can pin it. Since this measurement has that measurement, we're going to go 1.3 to get up to 1/2 inch. And you slide the fabric up onto the tool. Use steam. And then you don't necessarily need to measure, but tuck the fabric into the fold and give it some steam. And then pin. And the fabric will be hot, so don't burn yourself. When we're done ironing, we're going to head over to the sewing machine and do what's called a narrow hem, or edge stitching it right along the edge here. All right, now we're ready to sew a narrow hem. A narrow hem is where we fold it a 1/4 inch in and a 1/4 inch in, or a 1/2 inch with a 1/4 inch folded into it. But to make it permanent, so there's our 1/4, that right there is a 1/2 inch, that right there is a 1/4 inch. So we move it, bring it in and in. We ironed it down. Now to make it permanent, we are going to sew it. And we're going to sew right along the edge of the fold, but we try to put everything onto the fold so that way it will not twist up on us. So we lift up the presser foot, we line up the fabric. Whenever we start, we have the needle down, go forward like 2 or 3 stitches. We use the back button, which is right there on my machine. Go back, and then we go forward. After the fabric catches, we don't have to touch that anymore, but we do have to guide the fabric. We're not tugging, we're not pulling, we're just guiding the fabric. And every time you stop, stop with the needle in the fabric, so that way the fabric does not scooch around on you. You could move it around a lot, but we're just going to try and keep it as straight as possible. And just guide the fabric in. Stop with it in there, pull a pin. Don't sew over pins, because that will mess up your machine and it could splinter the pins and it could splinter the needle and the shards could go running all over. Could get in your eye, it could cause a lot of damage. So try not to go over pins. Also, the speed of your foot pedal, the harder you press, the faster you go. The slower you press, the slower you go. You'll see there are some threads here. This is what the narrow hem does, is it's capturing all the raw edges into the fold, so that way we could trim these and they won't become a problem. But they also won't keep coming apart and unraveling the fabric. Some people have fancy machines that every time they stop, the needle stops in the down position. I have a basic machine and it does not do that. To the edge, what you do is continue going all the way off the fabric, but not very far. So just, you can even use the hand wheel. We're off the fabric now. Now we back it up like 3 or 4 stitches, and then we go forward off the fabric. As soon as you go off the fabric, stop, put your foot off the pedal. Make sure that you spin the wheel so that it's going up and down, and then pull, because that will release the knot that's holding the machine there. Because you did the back stitches, you can cut the thread right at the edge of the fabric. If you don't back stitch, you have to leave extra fabric, cut it farther, and then use those tails to make a knot at the end of your fabric. So now we go back and check. Did we sew the entire hem in, or did we go off anywhere? And it looks like, for the most part, we kept it straight and on the fabric. If at any point we messed up, this is a handy tool called a seam ripper. And we rip out the stitches, tie knots at the ends, and then redo it. Every seamstress has a seam ripper and a favorite seam ripper because you will use it. So if you had not backed off the edges, you'd have to tie a knot, just a regular square knot, and then clip off at the edges. And now this project is complete because it has 1, 2, 3, and 4 sides hemmed. We now ask that you wash this material, measure it, and put it into a plastic bag. Washing it will help to get rid of these extra raw edges, but if they don't, just go ahead and clip it off close to the edge. And if you could, after it's washed, measure how big your piece of fabric is. We'll do this farther on the table and show you what we mean. Okay, so now we are going to measure our fabric square. This one edge we put at the end, and we fold through, and you can see that it is approximately 139 centimeters, or about 54 5/8 inches. So we're going to write down 139 centimeters. 139 centimeters by, and this top edge of the fabric, you'll notice, is doubled over. So we're going to start at one edge, and it is 112 centimeters, or 44 inches for half of it. So really this is 224 centimeters. Because this is going to Chad, they will want centimeters. So we're putting fabric square, 139 centimeters by 224 centimeters. And then we fold it up so it fits in our resealable bag. Squeeze out as much air as you can. And then put this in the donation bin at the Patch Arts and Crafts Center, and it will be donated to the refugees and displaced persons of Chad, Africa.